Dragonfly. Good evening and welcome to a thankfully slightly cooler Peter. We'll not have the storms yet they're predicting, but I guess they're probably coming. I hope they're coming anyway. So part 2 in the plant spot. I thought, as there's been a couple of comments, that I'd talk about the Garden of Good and Evil as it became, or which was originally a poisons garden. Not much actually in flower at the moment, but I thought actually that'd be one just to talk about. And it's this currently scrubby patch here at the moment. And well, I'll leave you to make up your mind at the end whether good or evil is winning, but I know which one I think it is. So, plants that we have in here. So, broadly speaking, this half are poisons, and this half are herbs, interesting names. You'll see why the name came about when I go through them. So, first the poisons. We have most obvious, which is digitalis. Now this is not the field foxglove that you will see growing wild commonly. This is I can't remember the Latin name for any plant buffs out there, but this is a more basic version of the other one. I've got the other one growing over there in one of the other beds. So the reason for having that is digitalis is where digitoxin, or digoxin, for some of you might recognise that name, is isolated from, used as a treatment for dropsy in medieval times. I'm reliably informed that the treatment was, or the dosage was, to lay a leaf on the tongue until the patient vomits, and then when the patient vomits, you take the leaf out of the mouth. Dropsy, is what we would now know as excess fluid in the body because due to heart failure. What digoxin does is it helps the heart beat stronger. Beats a bit slower, but it beats stronger, and that's why that when the active ingredient was isolated, it's become digoxin, which is something that is still fairly commonly used for patients in heart failure and to slow their heart rate down. So that's the foxglove. They say if foxglove likes your garden, you won't get rid of it. I think we're probably quite happy that it's self-seeding quite merrily here. Next one is a delphinium. It's quite small. It was 20p from rescue plant from the local garden centre, and I would definitely, if you're not too bothered about giving your plants time, recommend going to the part of the garden centre where they sell the plants off for 20p, 50p, because you can pick up some quite good bargains. I thought this was going to be the world's most puny delphinium when it came out earlier this year, and there was 4 flowers on it. Obviously another spike's come up. That's probably going to be it for this year. Delphinium is, as well as being a really good colour, is very toxic, all parts of the plant. Again, anyone with a slight medical bent will recognise the action, the way that it's quite a dirty plant, has lots of medical effects, but the mode of death is that it stops the muscles and the nerves talking to each other, so basically stops breathing, similar to drugs that we would use for anaesthetics. It also, interestingly, has a little bit of an effect on sort of an anti-atropine-like effect. So it's similar to organophosphates and sarin. Has anyone been watching the Salisbury poisonings? And coincidentally, and this is not intentional, but actually, although it's now gone because it dies off during the middle of the summer, we also have a mandrake in here, and mandrake is the opposite. So the two would probably be antidotes to each other. So that's quite coincidental. The mandrake's down here, but as I said, it's puffball mushroom. But it's died back, which is what it does every time this year. It's flowered last year, hasn't flowered spectacularly, but it's quite nice green glossy leaves. What else do we have in here? We did have a very big Lobelia tuber, which was 6 foot with big red flowers, and that's actually why there's quite a big gap, because I'm still trying to replace it at the moment. So if anybody knows anyone selling Lobelia tupa, please let me know. The other poison that we have here is this one. This is a seedling this year. This is called pokeroot. It's a US plant, which, for those of you in the US, I'm reliably informed, it actually is used, the young leaves are used as a salad. However, you've got to get the right, I haven't tried it because you've got to get the right part of the leaves right age, because if you take too much, it basically forms soap in your guts, which I can't imagine is very pleasant. So yeah, and that's quite, again, quite an interesting one, in that you've got to know what you're doing with it. So that at the moment, those at the moment are the poisons that we've got. So to come to the other side, and there's sort of a bit of coincidence here. The first thing was putting this in, which is called a Vitex agnus castus, or a chaste tree. And I like it because it's a member of the mint family. There's quite a lot of other mints, as you guess, in the garden. It attracts bees later in the year, and obviously the whole idea of the plant, a lot of the plants in here, is to try and increase the insects. It's a Mediterranean import. I'm told that monks and nuns would keep a sprig of it in their pocket to remind them to be chaste. But interestingly, having looked at Nicholas Culpeper in the medieval times in the UK, it wasn't known. He doesn't mention it, and he's got quite a wide-ranging, big range of plants in the book. So I suspect probably that was what happened in Europe. I don't think it has any medicinal value now. I don't know why. I can't imagine why else it would keep you chaste. I mean, it's quite pretty. The leaves don't smell. It's not offensive. But anyway, that was called the chaste tree. We also have round here a rue, which is just over, probably about to set self-seed. You see, known for its bluey leaves and vivid, quite fluorescent yellow flowers, which there's just a couple left. Rue's known as herb of grace. See, probably the sort of theme creeping through. That one is self-seeded. Has quite a lot. Actually, a fair few things are in this bed. It's also, actually, you've got to be a bit careful. Sort of going to the poisons one. It can cause, if you get it on your skin or get the sap on your skin with the sun, it can cause the skin irritation. So if I've been gardening in there, you can usually see the marks on your skin. It's quite a common thing for a lot of plants in the garden. Wash it off, it goes away. And most people will not have a big reaction, but it is worth being a little careful for. So that's herb of grace. Down here we have a little collection of pasque flowers. Again, theme should be getting a bit obvious now. And these are here. I love photographing these, that's why they're here. We've got a local area called the Hills and Holes Villa Nature Reserve where they grow wild. But unfortunately, obviously, I bought them, got some different colours. Those come out at Easter. This year they did actually manage to coincide with Easter, which is quite unusual. And here we have what Steve would call the big parsley, and that's Angelica. Some of you will know it for the cooking. You take it's supposed to only last 2 years. There was a much bigger plant in here. These are the seedlings, which I'm now trying to cultivate. Because the big one was a casualty of the winds earlier in the year. You take a 2-year-old stem and crystallise it with sugar, and that's what you use in your cooking. So that's broadly speaking what we've got in here. We've also got bulbs, because I'm aware it's quite often quite a dull bed, so it's a lot of spring bulbs in here, that's just coincidental. We have some salsify, wild salsify. I don't know if any of the rest of you have ever tried to grow this to eat it. I tried once, which absolutely failed miserably, and then looked over here to find it's all the wild stuff's all set root. The roots of this aren't quite enough to eat. So that's Wise Garden of Good and Evil. Oh, the final thing actually that's self-seeded, and this is completely coincidental. and it's a little plant called Alleluia, which just completes the religious theme. And it's here. Again, some of you will know it as wood sorrel. It's interesting. It had white flowers, although interesting, I see there was one out the other day which was actually quite pink. Now, some people know this as shamrock. I did, but actually, when you look into it, it's very unlikely not to be shamrock. It is very likely that even though these leaves are the right shape, it's actually very likely that shamrock is a type of clover, but it's not actually agreed which type of clover it is, or trefoil, same family, pea family, but that is known as, probably erroneously, as shamrock. So that's Garden of Good and Evil. I think Good's probably winning at the moment. Got to do a bit more work on the evil side, but that's why it's called that. Oh, well, just a couple of other things to point out. I talked about the pleurisy root, which wasn't quite out on the first thing, and that's this. Again, it's another US import. Again, the bees love it. It's nice bright colour in orange, in various shades of orange. And the other thing just to point out here is a rose that seems to think it's March. It's early bird, if anyone's interested in roses. It's the first one of them all to come out, and I thought it was over, so I was about to cut it back, but we won't be cutting it back till it's definitely finished. So that's just another little segment of plants with a little bit of history, a little bit of toxicology. Any questions below? Again, I will try and get to them and answer them. Thank you.